When my son called on a Sunday morning to tell me he was getting married the next day, I was sitting at my kitchen table with my coffee, checking my bank accounts the way I do every Sunday. And what I saw on that screen, what had happened to my savings over the previous 3 days, should have destroyed me. It would have destroyed most people. But here is what my son did not know. What he had never bothered to find out about the quiet woman who shelved books at the public library and smiled politely at everyone she met. I had spent 12 years as a paralegal. I knew exactly what fraud looked like, and I had been documenting everything for weeks. Stay with me, because this story is not just about betrayal. It is about what happens when a woman who has been underestimated her entire life finally decides to stop being quiet about it. My name is Beatrice Ann Holloway. I was born June 12, 1962, in Cleveland, Ohio. For 37 years, I was wife to Robert James Holloway and mother to Connor Robert Holloway. Robert died on February 14th, 2001, Valentine's Day, in a car accident on Route 71. He was 49 years old. I was 39. Connor was 11. And the three of us, the life we had built together, became two people and a gaping silence where the third used to be. People who know me from the library see a gentle woman, perhaps a little lost since her husband passed. Certainly harmless. What they do not see, what I have never seen the need to advertise, is that before Connor was born, I spent 12 years as a paralegal at Henderson Mitchell and Associates in Columbus. I know contracts. I understand property law. I can recognize fraud from across a room because I helped prosecute it for over a decade. When Connor was born, I left that career to raise him and later took the library position when he started high school. But I never forgot what I had learned. I never stopped keeping meticulous records. I never lost the understanding that evidence is the only thing that cannot be argued with. 3 months before that Sunday phone call, Connor started asking about my finances. It was July 23rd, the day after my birthday. Mom, I've been thinking. You're living alone now, and I worry about you managing bills. What if you forgot to pay something? Let me help you set up automatic payments. I told him I was 62, not 92. He smiled and said Dad would have wanted him to look after me. That line got me. So I gave Connor access to my checking account, the one with about $4,000 for monthly expenses, not my savings account with $127,000, just a checking. He thanked me warmly, said it helped him worry less. I felt good about it. That was my first mistake. 6 weeks later, Connor brought his girlfriend to dinner, Vanessa Pierce, 29 years old, with sharp beauty that made me think of cut glass, all edges and reflecting light. We sat in my dining room at 856 Maple Drive. I served pot roast. Vanessa picked at her food, her eyes scanning the room, the way someone scans a room when they are calculating its value rather than appreciating its warmth. "This is a lovely home, Beatrice," she said, not asking permission to use my first name. "Houses like this must be worth what? 500,000? 600? I said I hadn't had it appraised recently. Connor laughed and said Vanessa was interested in real estate, always looking at property values. Later, washing dishes, I heard Vanessa on her phone in the living room. "My house has good acoustics." "Yeah, she's got money," Vanessa was saying. "The house alone is worth at least 600,000. And Connor says she has savings. She never worked, So it's all Robert's insurance money. When she dies, it all goes to Connor anyway. I stood at the sink with my hands in the soapy water and I did not move. Connor must have heard too, because I heard him say quietly, Vanessa, keep your voice down. Sorry, babe, she replied, not sounding sorry at all. A warning bell rang somewhere inside me, but I dismissed it. I was wrong to dismiss it. 2 weeks later, Connor emailed me. Important documents, please sign. Inside were 4 PDF attachments, 15 pages each, dense with legal language in a font that was small enough to make my eyes strain. My paralegal training kicked in immediately. But before I could work through them properly, I remembered I had been sick the week before. Pneumonia. 4 days in Columbus Memorial Hospital, September 14 through 18, with a fever that peaked at 104.3 degrees. I called Connor. Did you bring me papers to sign in the hospital? A pause on the line. Just insurance forms, Mom. You signed them on the 16th. I had a notary come. You don't remember? Your fever was really high. After we hung up, I tried to remember September 16th. There were vague impressions, voices, a pen in my hand, signing something. But the memories were fragile. I should have hired a lawyer that day, but he was my son. I thought I could trust him. That was my second mistake. My last. October 27th, 7:30 in the morning. I sat at my kitchen table with my coffee and my laptop, checking my accounts. My Sunday habit of 30 years. The page loaded. Checking account, $5,327. Savings account, $1,000. I sat very still. My savings had held $127,316. I clicked on the transaction history. October 24th, $50,000 transferred to Connor Robert Holloway. October 24th, $40,000 transferred to Connor Robert Holloway. October 25th, $36,316 transferred to Connor Robert Holloway. 3 transfers over 2 days, leaving just enough to keep the account open. My checking account, another 3,000 gone on October 26th. I could not breathe. Then my phone rang. Connor's name on the screen. Hey, Mom, great news. I'm getting married tomorrow. Vanessa and I decided not to wait. Small ceremony at the Riverside Country Club. I asked him about my bank accounts. Oh, that, he said, as casually as if we were discussing the weather. I needed the money for the wedding and our new condo down payment. You'll be fine on Social Security, right? I told him he had taken $127,000. He said, technically, he had authorization. The papers I signed, power of attorney. He said that was how the bank saw it. His voice hardened. I'm your son. Everything you have comes to me eventually anyway. I just needed it sooner. Vanessa and I are building our future. I asked about the house. All right, he said. I sold it yesterday, 1247 Oak Street, $340,000. Great price. The buyers take possession in 30 days, so you need to be out by November 26th. Maybe look into assisted living. That was when I said, quietly and clearly, Connor, I don't live at 1247 Oak Street. A pause. What? That's my rental property. The Hendersons live there. They have 18 months left on their lease. Silence. Then, your rental property. The house I live in is 856 Maple Drive. It's in a trust. More silence. When Connor spoke again, his voice had changed entirely. But you never told me? No, I said. I never did. And then I laughed. It started small and grew until tears were rolling down my face. Not tears of grief, but of something I can only describe as the release of a woman who has just watched a trap spring closed on the person who set it. Connor, do you have any idea what you have just done? I sold your rental property. So what? You sold property you do not own, with tenants who have a valid lease, using fraudulent documents obtained by exploiting your sick mother. That is theft, fraud, and forgery. 3 felonies. He told me not to be dramatic. I told him to enjoy his wedding. I told him it was going to be the last happy day he had for a very long time. Then I hung up, walked to my filing cabinet, and got to work. Inside were 2 property deeds: 856 Maple Drive in the Robert Holloway Family Trust, and 1247 Oak Street in my name alone. The lease agreement for Tom and Linda Henderson, valid through June 2026. And then I opened my laptop and began a new document: Timeline of Financial Abuse and Fraud. Connor Robert Holloway. By Sunday night, I had everything organized. By Monday morning, I had a plan. Monday, October 28th, 9 in the morning, I called my credit union to report fraud. At 10, I called David Richardson, a retired attorney from my book club, and told him my son had stolen my savings and fraudulently sold my property. He asked how much. 127,000 in theft, 340,000 in fraudulent sale proceeds. He said, Jesus, and told me to be in his office at 2 o'clock. At 11, I called Tom Henderson at 1247 Oak Street and told him what had happened. His voice went tight with anger. I told him his lease was valid and binding, and that he was protected, but that I needed him to know immediately and might need a statement from him. Whatever you need, Mrs. Holloway, he said. Absolutely whatever you need. At 2 o'clock, I sat in David's office and told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he removed his glasses and said, Beatrice, your son has committed multiple felonies: grand theft, fraud, forgery. This is not civil. This is criminal. He could face 5 to 10 years. I know, I said. Are you sure about this? He's your son. I met his eyes. He stole my life savings and tried to make me homeless. What kind of son does that? I attended the wedding the next day. I want to be honest about that. Connor had texted the night before, asking me to come, saying he wanted me there, telling me not to fight over money. I texted back that I would be there, and I meant it, not as a performance of forgiveness I did not yet feel, but because I wanted him to believe everything was fine. Let him marry his calculating bride. Let him celebrate with my stolen money. Let him believe he had gotten away with it. I wore my navy blue dress. I carried a small wrapped gift, a framed photo of Connor as a baby, taken by Robert with a note written on the back. May you always remember where you came from. Love, Mom. Vanessa looked stunning in a gown that probably cost $12,000. My $12,000. The champagne was Veuve Clicquot, 15 bottles visible at 200 a bottle. The cake, 4 tiers with sugar flowers, $1,800. The 300 white roses, $40 each arrangement, $12,000. I had helped plan Robert's company events for years. I knew exactly what things cost. That wedding cost at least $75,000. My $75,000. I smiled. I took photographs. I made polite conversation. And when my phone buzzed with a text from David Richardson, police investigation opened. Fraud charges being prepared. Title company confirms notary seal fraudulent. Notary was in California on September 16th, not Ohio. I looked at Connor laughing with his groomsmen, and I thought, not yet. Let him enjoy this moment. It will be his last happy one for a very long time. Halloween, October 31st. Connor and Vanessa appeared at my door unannounced. Connor furious. Vanessa's expression cold and calculating. The title company had frozen the proceeds from the house sale. Fraud charges were being prepared. Connor pushed past me into my living room, demanding to know what I had done. I closed the door calmly and told him that perhaps the title company was concerned because the power of attorney had been forged. Vanessa stepped forward and told me I was old, that I could not manage my finances anymore, that they had been helping me. She said it was not stealing if I was too senile to manage my own money. Connor is your son, she said, her mask completely off now. Everything you have should go to him eventually. Anyway, we just needed it now. I kept my voice steady. So this was your plan. Find a man with a wealthy parent, manipulate him into stealing from her, then build your life on her money. Connor told me not to talk about Vanessa that way. She loves me, he said. She loves your inheritance, I told him, or what she thought was your inheritance. Vanessa threatened to have me declared incompetent, to put me in a nursing home, to tell everyone I had dementia. Connor stepped closer and told me to call the bank and title company and say I had made a mistake. I felt genuine fear then, not of their threats, because I had evidence on my side, but of what my son had become. This angry, threatening man was a stranger. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, "Get out of my house, both of you." Now, one, two, they left. The investigation moved with the speed that evidence tends to produce. The credit union confirmed multiple irregularities in the power of attorney documents. The notary seal belonged to Margaret Phillips, whose license had expired before the date on the documents and whose credit card records placed her in Sacramento, California on September 16th, not in an Ohio hospital room. My signature on those documents was shaky, inconsistent with my normal handwriting. The title company froze the $340,000 from the house sale. The Martinez family, who had put their entire life savings into a down payment on a house they had no idea was occupied by tenants with 18 months remaining on a valid lease, filed suit against Connor for fraud, breach of contract, and emotional distress. I called Rosa Martinez personally. I told her how deeply sorry I was. I promised her that her family's lease would be honored and that when the Hendersons moved out in June 2026, I would sell her the house at exactly the price she had paid, $340,000. She cried. So did I. Then, on a Thursday morning in early November, while I was shelving books in the biography section of the library, I received an email from an address I did not recognize. The subject line read, "You should know the truth about Connor." I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was the information that I had a 5-year-old granddaughter. Her name was Emma Rose Holloway. Her mother was Sarah Mitchell, a woman Connor had dated in college who had become pregnant their senior year. Connor had offered Sarah $10,000 and disappeared when she refused. She had raised Emma alone for 3 years before suing for child support. The court had ordered Connor to pay $80,000 in back support plus $1,500 monthly going forward. He had been secretly using money, my money, to pay Sarah off, to keep his secret hidden from Vanessa's wealthy family, who expected a man without complications. I found Sarah's Facebook page on my phone. The most recent photo was 3 days old, a little girl with dark curly hair and Connor's exact smile, wearing a purple dress, blowing out 5 birthday candles. The caption read, "Happy 5th birthday to my Emma Rose. You are my whole world, even if your father refuses to acknowledge you exist." I sat down on the floor between the shelves and I cried. I drove to Columbus to meet Sarah Mitchell. Her apartment was small and spotlessly clean. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. A bookshelf held worn copies of Dr. Seuss and early chapter books. Sarah was 33, with tired eyes and a kind face. And she told me without bitterness that she had loved Connor once, that he had been charming and kind until the moment she told him about the pregnancy. And then he had changed overnight. She had struggled alone for 3 years before finally getting a lawyer. The court ordered the 80,000. Connor paid 50,000 of it the previous year. I understood now where that money had come from. Then, 2 months before the wedding, he paid the remaining 30,000. She had thought he had finally grown up. She had no idea he had used his mother's savings to do it. At 3:45 in the afternoon, I heard small footsteps on the stairs. The door burst open. Emma Rose Holloway had dark curls, Connor's brown eyes, Connor's smile, and Robert's nose. She was wearing a pink backpack covered in unicorn stickers. She stopped when she saw strangers in the room. Sarah knelt down. "Emma, this is Mrs. Holloway. She is your grandmother, your daddy's mother." Emma's eyes went wide. "My daddy's mummy." I could not speak. I just nodded. Emma walked over cautiously. "Mommy says my daddy lives far away. Do you know where he is?" "Yes, sweetheart. I know where he is." "Does he think about me sometimes?" My heart broke completely and quietly. I looked at this 5-year-old child who had her grandfather's nose and her father's smile and none of the protection she deserved. And I said, "I think he thinks about you all the time. He has just made some mistakes, grown-up mistakes." Emma studied me with those serious 5-year-old eyes. "Mommy says everyone makes mistakes. She says the important thing is saying sorry and trying to be better. Your mother," I told her, "is very wise." The preliminary hearing was November 15th. Connor arrived looking terrible. Dark circles, wrinkled suit, hands shaking. When his eyes met mine across the courtroom, I saw genuine fear for the first time. The evidence David presented was overwhelming. Bank records, forged documents, title company findings, detective's report. And then, when Judge Helen Pritchard asked if anyone wished to make a statement, I stood and looked directly at my son and said, "Connor, before this goes further, tell me about Emma." The color drained from his face. Vanessa, sitting behind him, looked confused. "Connor," I said quietly, "tell them about your daughter." The courtroom went completely silent. Connor's attorney leaned over, whispering urgently, and then Connor broke. He stood up, tears already streaming, and he told the courtroom about Emma Rose, about abandoning Sarah, about the court ordered support he had been hiding from Vanessa and her family. about the panic that had driven every terrible choice that followed. I stole from my mother to cover up the fact that I abandoned my daughter, he said, his voice barely holding together. I am a coward. I am a thief. I don't deserve mercy. Vanessa stood behind him, stared at the man she had married 3 weeks earlier, and walked out of the courtroom. Her heels clicked on the marble floor until the sound disappeared. Connor collapsed back into his chair, sobbing. 5 days before Thanksgiving, a woman appeared on my porch. Late 50s, silver hair, expensive coat, an expression of someone who has been carrying something very heavy for a very long time. I'm Diane Pierce, she said, Vanessa's mother. May I please speak with you? I let her in. She handed me an envelope with trembling hands and asked me to read it before she explained anything. The letter inside was dated November 18th, 2024, handwritten on cream stationery. It began, Dear Mrs. Holloway, 23 years ago, on February 14th, 2001. Your husband, Robert, saved my life. She had been driving on Route 71 with 6-year-old Vanessa in the back seat when she lost control during an ice storm. They had spun into oncoming traffic. Robert had been driving toward them. He could have swerved away. Instead, he had deliberately steered his car to take the impact. He had absorbed the collision with his own body so that Vanessa and her mother could walk away. Robert James Holloway died so that my daughter could live. I read the letter and set it down very carefully on the table between us. And for a long time, I could not say anything at all. Diane had carried that secret for 23 years. When Vanessa began dating Connor 2 years earlier, Diane had seen it as perhaps fate's way of allowing her to repay an impossible debt. She had encouraged the relationship. She had suggested carefully and persistently that Robert would have wanted his family to help the people he died saving. She had not told Vanessa about the accident. She had not told Connor. She had simply nudged a situation that she believed in her grief and guilt was the right thing to do, and watched it become something she had never intended. I asked her to leave. She left, sobbing. I sat alone in my living room with the letter and the weight of what it contained. Robert had died, saving the woman who helped Connor betray me. I did not know what to do with that. I still do not know completely, but I know this. Robert's sacrifice was an act of pure instinct and goodness in a single unplanned moment. What Connor and Vanessa did was calculated, sustained, and deliberate. Those are not the same thing. They were never the same thing. And honoring Robert's sacrifice did not mean pretending otherwise. The sentencing was December 10th. The courtroom was full. Tom and Linda Henderson were there. Rosa Martinez and her children were there. Sarah Mitchell sat in the back row. Patricia sat beside me, and Diane Pierce sat alone near the door, looking smaller than she had on my porch. The prosecutor presented her case methodically. The evidence required no embellishment. Then victim impact statements. Tom Henderson spoke first about what it had nearly done to his family's sense of security. Rosa Martinez spoke next, her voice shaking, about 12 years of savings that had almost disappeared. Then I stood. I said that Connor Holloway was my only child, that he had committed serious crimes against me, crimes motivated by fear and desperation and deeply flawed judgment, that he was also the father of my 5-year-old granddaughter, Emma. I said I did not want vengeance. I wanted my son to become the man his father would have been proud of. His father, who 23 years ago gave his life to save strangers. I asked for a sentence that held Connor accountable while giving him a chance to be the father Emma deserved. Sarah Mitchell testified that Connor had recently visited Emma for the first time, that he had cried when he held her, that he had begun therapy. Do you believe he can change? The attorney asked. She said she believed people could change if they truly wanted to. She was not sure yet whether Connor truly wanted to, but Emma deserved a father who tried. Judge Pritchard sentenced Connor to 18 months in Franklin County Jail, followed by 5 years of supervised probation, full restitution of $127,000, plus interest to be paid over 10 years, mandatory therapy, and a legal custody arrangement with Sarah Mitchell. 18 months, not 5 years. County jail, not state prison. A chance. It has been over a year now since that Sunday morning when I sat at my kitchen table and watched my savings disappear from a screen. Connor is 42 days out of jail as I write this. He is 93 days sober. He has a new job, honest work, and he sees Emma every weekend. He pays me $1,200 a month toward what he owes. Last Saturday morning, he and Emma came over while I was planting roses in the garden. Emma threw herself into my arms, smelling of strawberry shampoo, and handed me a crayon drawing. 3 figures holding hands. That's you, that's me, and that's Daddy, she told me. It's beautiful, I told her. We knelt in the dirt together, the 3 of us, and we planted roses. Patricia sat on the porch watching us and smiling. Later, after they left, she asked me if I had any regrets. I thought about it honestly. I chose justice over vengeance, I said. I chose accountability over enabling. And I got Emma out of it. You got your self-respect too, Patricia said. Yes, I agreed. That most of all. This Thanksgiving, my kitchen was full. Tom and Linda Henderson and their daughter, Rosa Martinez and her 3 children. She bought 1247 Oak Street in July, just as I had promised, at exactly the price she had paid. Patricia and her husband Michael, David Richardson and his wife, Sarah and Emma, Connor setting the table, and in the corner, looking uncertain, Diane Pierce. It took me a long time to invite her. It took me even longer to mean it. But Robert gave his life for that little girl. The least I could do was share a meal with a woman who has spent 23 years living under the weight of surviving it. Before dinner, I stood at the head of the table. I told them I was 64 years old, that 2 years ago I had thought I had lost everything: my money, my security, my son. What I had actually lost, I said, was my illusions. I learned that love without boundaries is not love, it is enabling. I learned that family does not mean accepting abuse. And I learned that the greatest victory is not revenge, it is rebuilding. Robert used to say that the measure of a life is not what you accumulate, but what you give and who you save. He saved Diane and Vanessa. Today, I hoped I had helped save Connor from himself, and in doing so, I had saved the most precious thing of all, my relationship with Emma. To Grandma B, Emma shouted, raising her juice cup. Everyone raised their glasses. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I sat in the garden alone as November darkness settled around me. The house behind me glowed warm. I looked up at the stars and I thought about Robert, about the split second on Route 71, when he made a choice that defined everything that came after it, including this moment, including this family, including Emma sleeping somewhere across the city with her father down the hall for the first time. I did my best, Robert, I said to the night sky. With everything you left me, the money, the house, the strength you somehow knew I would need, I did my best to be worthy of what you gave. The stars did not answer, but there was a peace in the silence that had not been there a year ago. A peace that is not the absence of pain, but something earned alongside it. Something that cannot be taken because it was never given, only built slowly, honestly, from the ruins of everything that needed to fall. If Beatrice's story moved something in you, if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, if you have ever been underestimated by the very people who should have known better, if you have ever had to choose between love and accountability and discovered they are not opposites, then you already know why this channel exists. Tales of Life is where real stories live. Stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, of broken things being rebuilt, of truth being spoken plainly and without apology. If this story reached you today, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment and tell me the moment you chose accountability over comfort, because those moments deserve to be spoken out loud. Like this video, subscribe to Tales of Life, and come back, because there are more stories waiting, and every single one of them matters.